All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Rev Show. I'm your host, Matt Solomon, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm an ex Formula 3 and GT3 racer and a full time DGen with Animoca Brands since 2020. I am beyond excited to be speaking to today's guest, someone that I've looked up to for a lot of my racing career as well. He is 3-time DTM champion and last season's Formula E driver for McLaren, Rene Rast. Rene is also one of our Rev Motorsport ambassadors, so let's welcome him to the show. Hey Rene, how are you doing today?
Hello, good morning from my side. I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be there.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. I'm glad we finally made this work. I know you've had a busy couple weeks. Obviously, with the Formula E season wrapping up, your DTM final race. Tell us about that. How was the final race of the season?
The year in general, as you said, it was very busy. As you can imagine, Formula E obviously was taking a lot of time, plus DTM, plus testing for WEC. I did Daytona as well. I did Le Mans as well. So I had lots of races this year. Overall, I was traveling around 260 days this year, which was insane. But yeah, the last race weekend in Hockenheim, DTM Hockenheim, finished quite well. I finished third in that last race. I started on the back foot. I started on P23 and finished on the podium. So that was a crazy race where I had a lot of fun. But yeah, overall, it's been a busy season, I can say.
Yeah, I mean you've had a very interesting season, that's for sure. Obviously juggling the kind of demands of Formula E and juggling demands of driving a GT car in DTM. That's something I kind of want to ask you about in a little bit. But I guess for those of you, for those of the people who are listening who might not know your history a little bit, can you go into that and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Rene Rast. I'm 37 years old, so quite old already. I started when I was 6 years old. I started with go-karts, and then basically, yeah, since then I'm in racing for the last 30 years plus. Professional race driver for the last 15 years, I would say. Raced for Audi for many years, in mainly in DTM, and prototype categories such as WC, DTM, but also lots of endurance races. And this year I switched to BMW, so I'm doing a lot of DTM races with BMW, but also I did this year's Formula E Championship with McLaren. And yeah, I won. Luckily, I won lots of championships in the past. I won 3 times the DTM championship with that bad boy in the background. This was the first championship winning car. Yeah, and more or less, I'm a touring car specialist, so I drove mainly close cars, so with a roof like these cars. And only this year and 2 years ago, I joined Formula E just because I got the opportunity. And yeah, it's a very great life to be a race driver. I have to say.
Yeah, you've had an incredible career, and I know you just mentioned DTM and you mentioned a few of the other races, but I want to just read out some of your stats right now. And I've got a list here. You're a 3-time DTM champion, 2-time 24 hours of Spa, uh, 24 hours of Nürburgring, 3-time Porsche Super Cup, 2-time Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, 80 AC GT Masters, and I'm sure there's more that's not on my list. So yeah, absolutely incredible career. What was your most memorable win, or your proudest moment, let's say?
I would say winning the DTM championship in 2017. So I jumped into the DTM championship. It was always a dream of mine to be a DTM driver, and I tried for many years to enter the championship. For many reasons, it never really was working out. And then in 2017, I got the chance to actually be part of the DTM championship with that car there. And I didn't really expect to be competitive or to win races. So yeah, I started basically entering the championship like a rookie, saying, yeah, let's see, maybe I score 2 or 3 points in a year. But then it turned out that we were quite competitive, and in the end, I won in my rookie year the DTM championship, and I think that's still the most success I've ever had and I've ever felt. And especially because it came in the last race of the season. I entered that weekend as third or fourth in the championship, and I only had very small chances of winning the championship. And then in the last race of the season, I won the championship, and nobody actually told me till I crossed the start finish line. So I was completely blind, and from one moment to the next, I was DTM champion, which has always been like a childhood dream of mine. And yeah, that's for sure the biggest achievement. Yeah, till now.
That's incredible. What a story, and what a way to win your championship. I guess that's yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it's one of those like movie scenarios, right? Where you always
yeah,
like probably picture it a million times when you're coming through the ranks when you're young. You're always like, oh, how amazing would it be to win the championship in your final race? And yeah, I
exactly.
mean, I actually remember that very well. I remember those times. So I
Yeah.
guess actually what was it about that car because you were so successful in that era of DTM especially, like what was it
Mhm.
that made you sort of fit so well with that car?
Those DTM cars, they had quite a lot of downforce. It's almost like a Formula 3 car in terms of downforce. And I somehow had a driving style which was suiting the car pretty well, which means I always like to brake late and carry all the speed into the corner, which the car was able to do. So the later you brake, the more speed you carry into the corner, the better it was. And I liked that kind of driving style. And I always pushed the limits maximum in qualify and in the race to extract the full potential. And I remember those times when the tire was or when the car was at its best in qualify conditions, so low fuel, new tires, cold outside air and temperature, and the car was all of a sudden 2 seconds quicker than in the practice sessions before, and you had to be very brave. Like in Hockenheim, the first corner, it was always the first gear, maybe one gear downshift and little brake, and all of a sudden in qualify, it was almost flat out, and you had to just be brave and put the throttle to the metal and try to do the corner all of a sudden flat out, which you have never done before. So you had to be also a little bit brave with these cars, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think of all the DTM cars, obviously you have the classic ones of the of the 90s and early 2000s, but I think of all of them, those that era, sort of 2015, 16, 17, 18,
Yeah,
that kind of that generation was like to me was really like the pinnacle, I'd have to
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Because I remember, those are the 2015 I did European F3, which we followed
yeah,
the DTM. So I
yeah.
got to see you guys race at a number of different tracks, and yeah, such a special car. So
Exactly.
incredible. But
Yeah,
now I want to that's a perfect little segue to kind of
yeah.
talking about Formula E. So actually, first of all, we have a few questions from the audience.
Hmm.
Rodney asks, "What's your favorite track?"
Probably the Nürburgring Nordschleife, so the big circuit, which is 25 kilometers long. I think that's the ultimate racetrack. You don't have that anywhere else in the world. Maybe in Australia, Bathurst is also quite cool, but the Nürburgring Nordschleife is exceptional. You have such a long track, no runoffs. It goes up until down the hill, fast corners, and it can be raining on one side of the track and sunny be on the other side of the track. So it's a huge challenge, but it's so much fun, I can tell you.
Yeah, I've only ever driven it on the sim, but it's
Hmm.
yeah, I would have to agree. It's definitely one of the best tracks out there.
Definitely.
Um, cool. So going back to where I was going with the next question, and this G Young here asks kind of the perfect way for me to lead into that next question. Um, Obviously, you said with a DTM car, it's kind of a cross between a GT car and a single seater, where you've got a lot of downforce, but you're essentially driving a tin top still. Formula E is obviously massively different, and for those
Yeah.
of you who are listening who don't know, we've also just launched the first official Formula E game called Formula E High Voltage. So make sure you go check that out. Um, so Formula E is incredibly different to everything out there. And it's the pinnacle of electric single seaters. So I think a lot of people naturally compare it to Formula One. Um, but let's pretend I don't know anything about Formula E. How would you explain that? How would you explain Formula E to someone?
Formula E is basically a formula car with an electric engine, and you have like 10 different manufacturers in that championship, or teams, who all try to compete against each other on a very different level. Normally, a race like Formula One race or also DTM race is always flat out. So you go as fast as you can down the straight, brake as late as possible, and try to just be very fast. Formula E is a bit different. You try to, or you have to manage your energy in a Formula E car, because the battery, it wouldn't last for the whole race, because the races are 45 minutes long. And if you would go flat out every lap, you would probably last, I don't know, 20 minutes only. But the race is 45 minutes long. So you have to actually maintain your energy and take care of the energy usage per lap. So you have to lift and coast, which means you have to go off throttle halfway down the straight, to save energy. And at the same time, if you use the brake, you recuperate or regenerate energy into the car. So it's a complete different style of racing. You have to be very smart. You have to manage your energy very well, and the racing is so unique because you can spend energy whenever you want it. So if I decide to pass those two cars in front of me, I can. I just stay on throttle longer. I waste more energy, but I gain two positions. But the energy I just wasted I will miss the energy end of the race. So they're gonna maybe pass me back, or if I defend quite smartly, they might not. But it's all about managing the energy for the racing, and that's very unique to Formula to any kind of racing championships.
Yeah, that's something that is you do a lot of endurance racing as well, and I know that's something that tends to happen. You conserve your fuel, you conserve tires and stuff like that. But in terms of a Formula E car, that's constantly happening through the entire race, right? Like every part of the race you're constantly thinking about it. How difficult is that from a driver's point of view to adapt to coming into it?
It's the most difficult thing ever. I've never experienced something that difficult in my entire career. It's not only the energy management; it's also the kind of racing. For example, this year in Portland in the US, it was we were racing on a normal street circuit, not street circuit, but not normal permanent race circuit, and we had lots of long straights, and nobody wanted to lead the race because it's almost like in cycling where the leader wastes or burns the most energy, and the second or third place driver saves a lot of energy. So what was happening? I was running in P3, and we were going down the straight half throttle because nobody wanted to lead the race. And then all of a sudden, you get passed by 10 cars on one straight, which is very strange, and you lose kind of track, and it's almost you kind of avoid crashing all the time because you are side by side with so many cars all the time. It almost feels like a first lap, entering the first corner, the first lap, the whole race. You have always somebody next to you. There's almost potential of a crash every corner, and it's so difficult to manage the energy, to manage track position, to race against other drivers. It's almost like racing, or almost driving the car is not happening because you have so much other things to do. It's actually crazy difficult to manage everything at the same time.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like such a handful to manage. Yeah, it sounds like nothing else
No,
really compares.
yeah.
Um, what? So, okay, there's a few more questions here from I'm trying to see
Hmm.
a lot of people asking questions. Let me pull one up here. Do you Here's a good one. Do you drive electric cars off the track in your normal day-to-day life?
I actually did. Yeah, yeah. I got a company car um, like 2 years ago from Audi, because I was Audi factory driver, and I got an electric road car as well. Obviously, that's not meant for long distance travels. So whenever I go for 6 7 hour drive, an electric car for me personally is right now not easy to use, because for those long drives, I cannot stop for 30 minutes every, I don't know, 2 3 hours, and wait for a charge. But for daily use inside like a big city, I think it's very handy and very cool. And I use it for short distances, but not for long distance. But yeah, I was having an electric car for private use for small distances, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, I guess that's also why Formula E races are tend to be a bit shorter, right? I guess the battery
Yes,
technology is obviously still being developed. Speaking of battery
exactly.
technology, are there different manufacturers for the battery? Or is that something that's homologated across the series?
The battery is homologated. It's the same battery size and specification for all the teams, all the manufacturers. What you can do, you can work on the software side, which means how do you use your energy. This you can use, but the battery itself is basically specify the same for all the manufacturers.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, really cool. I guess you're all in the same boat with that one. And I guess like you said, you drove an electric car in your daily life. And something that I think a lot of people listening will have maybe experienced is, when you go and sit in a Tesla, for example,
Hmm.
and you accelerate, the power delivery is so instant. There's instant torque. And it feels almost a lot more aggressive than a
Yeah.
naturally aspirated car, even a turbo car. So what's that like to race? You've obviously driven a lot of hybrid cars, but you've driven naturally
Hmm.
aspirated cars for most of your career. What is the difference, and what does the like throttle control feel like, for example?
Yeah, as you said, we you have instant power. So as soon as you touch the throttle, the power is there. And if you go full power, you have instant power, as much as you want to have, which is quite nice and cool to drive. But the most difficult part for us is to control that power, because obviously in a Formula E car in qualify mode, we have 350 kilowatts, which is close to 500 horsepower, and to control the power, we have different throttle maps to try, which is actually the most drivable. Because the thing is that our Formula E tires are quite small, and also it's not a slick tire, which means that the tire itself provides only very little grip. So you have to be very gentle with feeding in the throttle. You cannot be very digital. You cannot go just smash the throttle and go from 0 to 100 instantly. You have to build up the throttle gradually in a yeah, almost in a couple of seconds. It's actually takes quite long till you get the power down on the tarmac. It obviously depends on the track as well. If you have a high grip circuit, you can feed the throttle in a bit earlier and a bit more aggressive. But on a low grip circuit, or if it rains, sometimes we don't even go full power on the straight line, because you still have wheel spin at 200 kph sometimes. So yeah, it's quite tricky, but at the same time, it's quite nice that you always have instant power.
Wow, that's yeah, that'll be amazing to feel for sure. Yeah, I think someone in the audience I know who's actually just joined, asked that question specifically because they've recently just bought a Tesla, so they wanted to
Nice,
know. But
nice.
yeah, super cool. I don't think the highest power thing I ever drove was a it's a GT3 car, which is you think is a lot of power, but I can't imagine what it'd be like to have 350 kilowatts under your feet. Be amazing.
in a
How?
in a
Sorry,
in a
go on.
GT3 car, you have the car is quite heavy. The GT3 car, right? You have a lot of
Sure.
power, but the car is heavy. In Formula E, the car is quite light, and you have lots of power. So it's a complete different ratio. So it's quite powerful.
Yeah, incredible. So like you said, there's 350 kilowatts in qualifying, 300 in the race. Do you feel that 50 kilowatt difference?
Yes, yes, a lot. You feel it a lot, even though it's just 50 kilowatts, but it makes a huge difference in your throttle application. So you cannot be that aggressive. But also you feel that the tires are overheating faster, because you obviously have more power at the rear tires. The tires are slipping more, which means you generate more heat in the rear tires, and that also means that you have, after, I don't know, one lap, you have very little grip only. So you definitely feel also the acceleration that it's more, but actually you feel more that the tires are overheating faster. So it's yeah, it's not easy.
Is that something that obviously, like, going back to the whole management thing, we're talking about having to manage your battery, but tire management, I guess, in a 45-minute race, normally you would think, you just push flat out, but is that something that you're also constantly managing with these tires, or less so?
in In the race, a bit less because you're not that pushy with your energy. You always try to be very gentle with the throttle to not spin the wheels, because if you have wheel spin, that means that you waste energy. You use your energy to spin the wheels, which then creates heat, and you always try to be very gentle with the throttle in the race. That means in the race we have less problems with tire overheating, but in practice sessions, for example, where we practice qualify simulations, so we go flat out for one lap, then the tire overheats, then we cool down one lap, so we go very slow and try to bring the temperature down of the tires, and then we do one push lap again. So it's always about pushing, cooling down the tire, pushing, cooling down the tire. That's the case in practice sessions, but in the race you don't do that, obviously, because you try to be efficient and just to not to lose too much track position.
Yeah, really interesting. Um, Again, for those of you who are listening who might not know, and Rene mentioned it before, if you look at the Formula E tires, it's kind of more comparable to what you would see on your road car. It's got grooves, and I guess the compound is slightly harder as well, is it?
Yes, exactly. It has grooves. So this tire is to basically we got that tire so we don't have to bring slicks and too many different tire options with it, which then is also better for the environment and saves money. And that tire basically is able to run in fully hot conditions, which means track temperatures above 60 degrees plus, but also in rain conditions when you only have 10 degrees. So it's a very versatile tire, which has to work in all kinds of conditions, which is not easy for a tire to work in all kinds of conditions. But it's actually quite working well.
Yeah, really interesting. Another question from the audience. Jake from Rev asks, how did you go from how did you go driving a combustion engine again? So I guess what did it feel like jumping back into the BMW and DTM? And actually, is that something that you, I guess, notice when you're in a Formula E car, is the lack of sound?
Exactly. Yeah, the lack of sound in the beginning was quite difficult because you rely a lot on the sound in a normal race car. Let's say you approach a corner, you brake, and you downshift. The engine gives you always a reference of how much speed you are reducing. So you hear on the engine sound if you're actually having the right speed approaching a corner. So you have a reference. And a Formula E car, you don't have that. You brake, and you have no idea how much deceleration you have, other than obviously the G-force, but you don't have the sound of the engine, decelerating, which was very, unnatural in the beginning. Um, but now I obviously got used to it, so it's not a problem anymore. But it's quite strange when you go on throttle, and the only thing you hear is basically the wind noises picking up. So and all the stones flying around. So you have kind of different sounds all of a sudden. So the first time I jumped into Formula E car was a bit strange, but obviously I got used to it. Once I jumped back into a normal race car with a proper engine, it's not a big, let's say, change or swap, because normally there's always a week in between jumping from a Formula E car to a normal race car with a petrol engine. So the gap between those two cars is normally big enough so that my brain can actually reset. And it's when I jump back to the normal race car, it's almost like second nature, and it doesn't take a lot of time to adapt myself. I think it would be more difficult if I would jump in the same day or during the same day from a Formula E car to a proper racing car. I think that would be difficult. But if there's like 3-4 days in between, it's not a big issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that it's always very interesting having to switch between that. The only experience I've
Hmm.
had of that is I raced Formula 4, the equivalent of Formula 4 and GT3s in the same year. And it
Yeah,
will often be at the same weekend. So I would have to go and
yeah.
jump from, the F4 car into the GT car, and that was a big
That's
change.
difficult. That's difficult. That's very difficult.
Um, but yeah, what I guess one thing that's super unique to Formula E is attack mode, right? And that's something that Kieran Holmes Darby, who's the gaming director of Formula E, when we spoke last, he said that it was Formula E's equivalent of the Mario Kart boost,
Yeah,
which I think is quite a nice way of putting it. So,
exactly.
can you describe it? And obviously, we have that in the game as well, so we will have a look at that in a little bit. But can you describe it and what that's like?
The tech mode is basically a tool for us to to pass other cars. So we had to use it once or twice during the race. And basically, once you took a tech mode, you had instead of 300 kilowatt, you had 350, which means you had obviously more power, which gives then the opportunity to pass other cars on start finish or on the track basically, which is not always easy because obviously the other cars around you know that you're on attack mode and they try to make your life difficult, so they defend a lot. At the same time, you burn more energy because you have more power, but it's a very nice tool to make the racing more exciting. It's a nice nice comparison with Mario Kart, where all of a sudden you have more power and you can pass people. It's almost the same in Formula E, that you use it as a strategic tool to make your end race result better. But yeah, it's not always so straightforward when to use it. But yeah, it's definitely a big benefit if you have more power, and you can actually pass cars easy on the straight.
Yeah, no, fascinating. I mean, if you look at what we, the Formula E high voltage game, for example, I know there's a lot. I've been speaking to some of the community members, and a lot of them have been trying to sort of strategize, like you said, when to use the attack mode, because obviously you could be in the middle of a fight, you could be in the train, and so yeah, super interesting. Um, Before we jump on to the next segment, which gonna test your knowledge a little bit, um, one of the viewers has asked, uh, how difficult is it to move from, in your opinion, how difficult would it be to move from Formula E to Formula One and vice versa? And I guess sort of Nick de Vries comes to mind in that
Yeah,
case. But
yeah.
what would you imagine that to be like?
I think many people have tried it. So there were people coming from Formula One, jumping in a Formula E car, and had very little chance to be competitive. But also, like you mentioned, Nick de Vries, he was our Formula E champion the last year, and he got the seat in Formula One. But somehow in Formula One, it didn't really suited his driving style. Um, so yeah, it's not easy. I think Formula One car is not easy to drive. Formula E car is not easy to drive. To drive both on a competitive level is, I think, almost impossible because they are just too different. The Formula E car is built to be efficient, so we have very little grip, and we have no downforce. We have low grip tires. The street circuits have no grip, and we have way too much power for the grip we have. Formula One is complete opposite. They have so much downforce. They also have lots of power, but they have actually more downforce than power. So it's actually crazy the amount of speed they can go through the corners and how late they can brake. So I think for the brain, it must be very difficult to switch from almost the lowest grip car to the highest grip car. And I think that's what basically makes it difficult to be competitive in both championships.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thanks for that insight. All right. Now, we're going to move on to the next segment before we jump into the gameplay. And
Yes.
this is, I should have created like a little sort of jingle. Maybe we can do that when we edit it. Um, but we're going to call it, I guess similar to kind of Grill the Grid,
Yeah.
where I'm going to ask you a few trivia questions to see how much, I guess, history or knowledge you know about Formula E.
Oh God.
Um, who has the fastest lap record in Formula E?
I know it was me in Portland this year in a practice session, but somebody was quicker than me in the qualify. It should have been. Must be Portland, right? It is. Is it Portland? The track in Portland? Or you mean top
The
speed or
lap record. Uh,
in average speed?
hang on. This doesn't. Yeah, I guess so. This question doesn't really make sense. Uh,
Okay, good.
maybe we'll
I'm
skip
safe.
it actually. But I know actually speaking about top speeds, Jake Hughes set the fastest speed record, right? Indoor speed record
Exactly.
in London.
This I know. Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. We'll move on. Because that question I realized reading back now doesn't make sense. Um, which team has won the most Formula E championships?
Oi, 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 oi. I would say in the past, who was it? Cheetah was it called? Is it
Mm,
right?
yep, yep, correct. It was
Nice.
DS to Cheetah.
Yes.
Well done.
Nice.
Um, which Formula E track is the longest?
Ui, ui, ui. Of the current season 9 or the next upcoming?
I'm
Or
pretty
ever,
sure
or
it's
ever.
I'm pretty sure it's current.
Oh, la, la. I would say Rome, maybe. No?
It's not. It is. Do you want to take one more guess? Two
Which
point
else?
at 2.4 kilometer, 2 point almost 2.5 kilometers.
The thing is, they're almost all identical
Yeah.
in terms of length. Jakarta? No?
Diria.
Diriyah, of course,
Yeah.
Diriyah. Diriyah is a long track. Yeah.
Um, which one is the shortest?
Ha. Which one is the shortest? Oh my God. London?
Uh,
No?
no. Well, okay, hang on. I don't know how accurate these are anymore. I'm a little bit lost. You know what? Let's skip that one, shall we? Um, which Formula E city hosted the first race?
Ui, the first ever race.
First ever race.
Santiago? No?
Actually, this one I remember because there was a huge crash at the end,
Yes.
final lap of the race.
Yeah, but who? The first ever.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
I kind
in
of
Yeah,
Beijing?
yeah,
No,
Beijing.
I know. I didn't know that actually. I thought it was Santiago. Okay,
Um, what is the minimum weight of a Formula E car?
I would say 950 kilos, but it's also probably wrong.
I mean, again, these answers could be wrong, so I could be completely off here, but it says 893.
Maybe it's with driver 950, but you know,
That,
I'm 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 guessing also.
yes,
Probably
I'm
you're right.
sorry.
Probably
These
you're right.
the research here is my research team isn't amazing. But
I think you're right. I think you're right.
uh yeah, okay, you know what? Let's move on. Some of these questions I realize looking at them now, some of them don't really make sense. So we'll skip that.
No problem.
And I'll come up with some better questions next time. But guys,
No problem.
everyone listening, as you know or don't know, we've recently launched the Formula E High Voltage game, which is the first official Formula E game across all platforms. And today we've got a cool little game demo here, because we've got Rene actually in the driver's seat, with his car, I believe. Um,
Nice.
Actually, maybe that isn't your car. Number 5 is not yours, is it?
It was JQ's. I had 58, but at least it's me in the picture there. It could be me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, we'll just pretend there's an 8 here somewhere. Um, so we'll jump into a race. We'll have a look at what the game looks like. So here there's different modes. You've got the battle mode and the training mode. So let's jump into a battle. All right. So here we have different tracks. Which track would you like to race?
I think Rome. Rome is quite nice.
Yeah.
The middle
All
one. Yeah.
right. So as you can see here, you've obviously got the track map, and here we've got clear weather, got a day race, 5 minute race, and there are 2 attack zones. So you need to pass through 2 attack zones, or you will be penalized, according to this. That's something that also happens in real life, right? You have to take.
Exactly. Yeah. It's mandatory. You have to take them. Otherwise, if you don't comply with the rules, you get disqualified.
Gotcha. All right, so we're gonna use you,
Hmm.
and so here to enter the battle mode, we have to pay 25 rev, and luckily in this account there is a few rev, so that's good. Um, So I know you are, you have dabbled in Web3. I
Hmm.
remember seeing that you've designed a little sandbox character, and you've played around a little bit. Tell us more. What's your experience with Web3? Obviously, you came on board as an ambassador a couple of years ago now. But yeah,
Yeah.
what's your experience over the last few years?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was always loved to play video games. I love to play Formula Ones and all these adventure games, and I always had a big fascination for gaming. And then obviously once Web3 kicked off, and all these games basically popped up. Um, I was a big fan of NFTs, decentralization, and all these things. And yeah, actually, I played the Rev game many times, had lots of fun, upgrading the cars and stuff like that. And then once basically we came together, we talked, and we actually opened up a partnership, and it was just I'm just a big believer in the technology and in all that. So yeah, I hope once people realize what we actually can build in Web3, or what actually blockchain is, I hope everybody understands it soon, and it will kick off.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're getting there, right?
Yeah,
There's obviously a lot of education that's required. People that are playing traditional games now may not necessarily understand what Web3 is, and
exactly,
because they hear maybe negative things on the news, it's easy to jump on that bandwagon and be like, ah, it's a scam, it's all this.
exactly,
But I guess once they learn, once they understand what it means to have ownership, then I think hopefully that narrative will change.
exactly. Yeah,
So I think we've just qualified here. Jake has actually put it on pole.
as
Um,
always, he's always so fast.
our teammate Newton has put it in on the front row, and we're here in P5. But that's okay. We've got the
Yeah,
whole
that's okay.
whole race to come back. All right, so here we are in the beautiful Rome.
Nice.
What was it like driving in Rome? What was the track like?
Rome is one of the most difficult circuits. It has a very fast part, especially the first sector, which goes up the hill. There was a massive crash this year. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a massive crash first sector, and the last sector is very technical, but it's a cool track.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. All right. Oh, we've had a decent start. All right. So basically, if we look down here at the console, there's different driving modes. So conservative, neutral, or aggressive. We're
Hmm.
currently in P4 on lap one. Here's an energy regen mode. Here's your battery
Hmm.
and attack mode as well. So we are coming up now. Let me see if we can jump into the map. Um, I believe we've just gone through the activation zone
Hmm.
of the attack mode.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, let's try and get you up the grid, shall we? It's a close race from second to fourth. Wow, that car's just disappeared. And we're now in P3.
Very good.
Um, so let's activate attack mode now for you to make sure that we'll get that next time around.
Hmm.
Wow, you took that hairpin like a champion.
Wow, incredible. Nice. Attacking P2 right now.
There you go. Is that our teammate? I think it is. Come on, we got to win the teammate battle.
Yeah, it's always the most important battle, right? To win
Oh
the
yeah,
teammate
100%.
battle.
What was it like partnering with Jake Hughes? Was that something that you did you guys have a good relationship as teammates or?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He's a good guy. I didn't know him before actually joining Formula E, but yeah, he's a very nice guy. Oh, P2, great.
There you go.
Uh, Attack mode. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. He's very fast, down to earth, and very humble. So we had very good relationships this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Um,
P2,
yeah, I'm very focused on this race right now. I want to make sure that we get you either P1 is quite far away. Where are they?
Yeah,
Let's go and change the camera mode now. Wow, they're
yeah.
like,
He had a he took a shortcut for sure.
he must have. Um, all right,
Oh,
let's get attack mode again, so we can try and close in on the leader. We're gonna have to get you your own NFTs so that you can compete with the guys in Formula E high voltage.
actually, I know that like I think when was it? Like 1.5 years ago, roughly, on the
Yep.
auction on Binance. Actually, I tried to get my car, but it was so hyped that everybody put so much BNB on the table that I couldn't actually follow. But I
Yeah.
remember it went for lots of money, all of the cars. So I couldn't actually, unfortunately, get my car. But hopefully, yeah, there will be a chance soon to get one and compete as well. It looks
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. I realized why I'm going so slowly. It's because we're in grandma mode apparently. So I've just set us to aggressive driving mode now.
Aggressive, yes,
Um, so let's do this. Let's attack. Uh,
yes.
+1 lap. So I think we've got another. I'm guessing one more lap. I don't know if this is the final lap. Um, but let's see. Let's try and catch up to the leader.
Where is he?
I have no idea. They're quite far. They've started to lap some people, I believe.
Yeah, the
Um,
P1 is flying. He's for sure.
oh, he's
He's
over
very.
here.
He has a different setup than I have.
Yeah, maybe he's not driving a Formula E car.
No,
Um,
nice.
all right. So yeah, the race is 5 minutes +1 lap. So we are heading, I believe, into the final lap.
Nice.
So come on, let's at least finish on the podium. I don't know if we're gonna run out of juice here.
I hope not, mate. Don't spend it before the finish.
All right, let's go back to neutral and see what happens because we're running a little low. How
Actually,
much
never.
energy do you have to finish the race with?
You have to be on. I mean, you can be on 0%, but you cannot use more energy than you're allowed to. So you have to make sure we have like a energy cut in the last lap. If you reach that cut, basically it cuts all the power and you're just rolling. Um, but the goal is obviously always to be on 0% before the finish line to get the cut just a few seconds before the finish line, which is which is not always easy. But that's the ultimate goal. But it luckily never happened to me that I run out of energy before the finish line.
Yeah,
But it
no,
sometimes
that's
happens
good.
to other drivers. Sometimes happen to other drivers that they actually
I've
spend too
seen
much
that.
in the last lap, and then you basically have to park
Oh
in the
dear.
last lap somewhere. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same as running out of fuel, right? But
exactly.
it's
Same
not a
feeling.
nice feeling
Same
to
feeling.
have.
Nope, nope.
We're back in P2. I think there's a pretty tight fight right now between us and P3. I should have gone through the attack zone. What is that like actually on track? Is it just an area that you know that you have to drive through, or is it clearly marked? Is it painted? Are there
Yeah,
fancy lights?
it's marked basically. We have normally outside of a specific corner, you have like a beginning of an attack zone and an ending, so like a line, and you have to go basically over those two lines and activate your attack mode. If you miss those lines, it's not going to be activated, and you have to try again next lap. Oh yeah, P2. Good job.
All right, there you go. We have just
Nice.
finished P2 on the road. Our teammates in P12, so there you go. We've kicked their
What
butt.
happened there? Yeah.
Um, there's Rene Rast, the duplicate in P4 and P6.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
you've locked out the top 10 pretty well.
Nice.
um, and Jake has dropped down to P11. So hey,
P11.
that's one for the McLaren battle, right? That's
Exactly. And the podium is good.
there you go. And we've now gained 30 points for Brock. who has kindly lent us his account for this race
Yeah.
because unfortunately I don't have you in my garage.
Okay, understood. Nice.
Um, so yeah, there we go.
Cool.
That is Formula E high voltage. And I'm
Nice.
glad we managed to get a podium with you.
Nice. Thank you.
Um,
Good drive.
so
Good
thank
strategy.
you, thank you. Yeah, I think we did well there. I think if we had have gone to maybe aggressive mode earlier rather than staying in grandma mode, we probably would have done a little bit better.
Maybe.
But
Exactly.
that's
Maybe.
okay. That's okay. We'll try again. Um,
Cool.
So Rene, what are your plans? You've obviously, you've finished the season up in Formula E. DTM's now done, so you've got, some time to relax, hopefully.
Yeah.
Also, it's recently your birthday. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
and you've also just had the birth of your child,
Yes.
second child.
A second child. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So,
There's. Yeah.
what are your plans? What are your plans for the rest of the year and for next season?
We still have some. So my season, DTM season is over. I finished fifth in the championship, which is okay, but because I missed one weekend, because I raced Formula E in that weekend. So DTM is finished. I've only got testing left, so I will be on the road with BMW. Yeah, testing the LMDH hypercar or prototype car for next season WC. So I've got like 10 more days of testing ahead of me, and then next year, hopefully, I can join yeah BMW for the season in WC, which has been always a dream of mine to fight for overall victory in Le Mans. But at the same time, I also love DTM, so I would like to combine both championships. I would love to do DTM and WEC at the same time. Yeah, unfortunately, yet is nothing is official, and I still have to wait for that decision. But I'm pushing a lot to do both championships next year. Yeah, because just a dream, to fight for overall victory in Le Mans with a prototype car. It's
Yeah,
very cool.
that would be absolutely amazing. I mean, the car looks incredible. It's one of the coolest cars I think out there.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, and
Oh,
so
thanks,
yeah, best
guys.
of yeah. A lot of people wishing you happy birthday, and Rodney's asked where to send the bottle of bourbon. I don't know if bourbon is your poison of choice, but there you go.
I
If
live actually in Austria, but you can come to any race next year and hand it over to me in person if you want. But yeah, would
maybe
love
that's
to.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna
oh,
say that's something that we should do at some point.
exactly. Yeah, I would love to welcome you all at one point at the racetrack and have a little chat about Web3 and all that. So it would be cool.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. Let's get that sorted and bring some people over to a race of yours.
Sure.
Um, Before we wrap up, we want to give away a Rene Rast Formula E driver NFT to one of the listeners. So I'm going to post the comment down below. This is a link to the tweet. If you guys could retweet that or quote tweet that and tag Rene and myself with the hashtag RevShow, we will pick one lucky listener or viewer, actually, I should say,
That's
to
so cool.
win a Rene Rast NFT. So actually, I'm going to type it in because I know people don't tend to listen. Now I'm going to be getting a lot of DMs being like, "What was it? What did you say?" So I'm going to do it again. So tag Rene Rast Racing and me with the hashtag RevShow. For a chance to win an NFT. And Rennie, you can do it as well if you wanna win your own
Yes, of
NFT.
course. I will give it a try. Nice.
um, cool. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very pleased to be part of that partnership. I think it's very cool what you have already built up in the background, and looking forward to the next steps. I think to launch that Formula E game was already a very big thing, and obviously, yeah, there's much more to come in the future, and yeah, I can't wait to see progress, and also to give my input to help to improve everything. But yeah, very happy, and hopefully, yeah, we see more of that in the future.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board and having you on the show as well.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll do something fun again in the future. Maybe we do some Formula E high voltage battles, or maybe we do a sim race or something fun. I know there's a few
Yes,
sim racers in our community, so that would be
would be
awesome.
great. Yeah, looking forward to
Yeah.
it. Nice.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. And best of
Thank you,
luck
Matt.
for your plans next year.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good time. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Rene.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Make sure to go quote tweet and tag Rene and myself with the hashtag RevShow, and one of you guys will win a Rene Rast Formula E NFT. So, yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. So, till then, keep revving.